Okay, if everyone's ready to begin, we've got some representatives from CalFire here that are going to help us out today. So let them introduce themselves.
Hi, good morning, everybody. My name is Ryan Dutton. I'm the fire captain at Station 66 here in the city of Beaumont. I've been contacted by some of your CERT members to come out and maybe answer some questions for you. I've been a part of 2 of the 3 garage fires that you guys have had in the last 6 months, has it been, roughly? Yeah. The 3rd one, I'm kind of in the know a little bit on that, but I wouldn't say I have intimate details. So hopefully we'll be able to answer some questions for you. We're just going to be here to support your CERT team and answer any questions you guys may have as they get through their presentation. Thanks for having us out today. This is my battalion chief, my boss, Chief Boyd.
Yep, I'm Tim Boyd. I'm just battalion chief for the Pass area here, and I'm here to support Ryan here. Answer any questions you guys might have too. So.
All right, we definitely appreciate you coming.
Yep. Sure.
Yes.
Well, good to see a good crowd. Can you hear me in the back okay?
Yeah.
Good. As long as my voice holds out, I think we'll be okay. I'm not a fire professional. These guys are. I put together this presentation. I did some research. Anybody heard of the internet? A lot of good information out there. So I put together this, but I am going to ask these guys at any time if they want to clarify something or correct something or whatever, or elaborate on something, speak up. Okay?
Sure. Absolutely.
All right, I'm going to start out. As Captain Dutton said, yes, we've had 3 fires in the last 6 months, garage fires. And that's one of the things that's prompted us to have this presentation. So we're going to go through this. First of all, I'm going to start out asking the question, why? Why is this important? House fires cause nearly $12 billion in damage each year. A building fire in a commercial kitchen can cost $23,000 in damages. Between 2013 and 2017, house fires cost Americans $6.5 billion every year. Fire losses grew from $13 to $28 billion in 9 years, from 2000 to 2009, probably much more since then. Every year, $11.1 billion is lost to property damage caused by home fires. Christmas tree fires cause approximately $17.5 million in damages annually. How many people light a candle on their Christmas tree? That's probably a good idea. Most fires that started as a candle fire, as a heat source, occur on Christmas Eve and New Year's. So this is a very optimal time to talk about this. The top 3 causes of residential fires are cooking, 50% of all fires, heating equipment, 12.5%, and electrical malfunction, 6.3%. A house fire happens every 87 seconds. Over 22% of non-residential fires are electrical fires caused by short circuits or wiring problems. Thanksgiving is the peak day for cooking fires. How many people have put that big old turkey in that big old fryer? Boy, it really tastes great, but you better know how to do that, right? Yeah. Do you guys have any comments on that as far as some of the statistics or?
No, I would say that's accurate, right? Well, a lot of times people use what are now considered kind of unconventional, or what were considered unconventional ways of cooking turkeys. Deep fryers are a big issue that I've personally seen. A lot of people have put frozen turkeys inside of deep fryers, and that if you guys all have YouTube, you can watch that. It makes for a pretty entertaining video. And then the Christmas tree safety stuff is very important. It is the season, right? Those of you that are using live trees instead of the artificial trees, it's really important to make sure that those things stay watered and you're keeping them green, because as they start to dry out, which happens very quickly, again, you can watch the videos on YouTube of what happens when an ignition source is applied to a Christmas tree. They go up pretty quickly, yeah.
Okay, some facts that I dug up, and again, I want these guys, if you think that some of this stuff is inaccurate or not quite right, just pipe up and let us know.
We'll do.
Each year, over 18,000 fires are started due to fireworks. It might be 16 to 20,000, but a lot of fires are started due to fireworks. In less than 5 minutes, the heat from a house fire can reach 1,100 degrees Fahrenheit. 45% of the home fires in fall months, when most Americans use their fireplaces to keep warm. 96% of all homes in the United States have had some form of fire or smoke-related damage. You know, we talked about the 3 fires that have happened in the last 6 months. I wouldn't be surprised if there have been some more that did not get out of hand. In other words, they might have started in the garage, but they were put out quickly. And those would probably be included in that statistic. Fire deaths.
Something to touch on that last
Yeah.
slide, sir, if you don't mind going back real quick. One of the things on there that talks about a house fire can reach over 1,100 degrees Fahrenheit in less than 5 minutes. So for those of you that have heard it, I'll be repeating myself, but there's a campaign that we've done called, what's it called? Close Before You Doze.
Yep.
So what the concept of that is our houses are all built with energy efficiency in mind nowadays. Older homes, you used to get drafts and a lot of air came in. Well, now they're sealed up really tight. And one of the things that's required for a fire to burn is oxygen. If we eliminate the oxygen to that fire, it's going to go out. So the best way to keep yourself safe and keep a fire contained to one area of the house is closing your doors in between movement between those rooms. So it's something good that you guys can do on your end to help us out and help yourselves out in the event that there's a fire in your house.
That is a great tip. Great tip.
We've both been a part of very substantial, well-involved fires inside of houses where the entire house was completely destroyed, except for the one room that had the door closed. And there's many pictures and videos and evidence of that online. That truly saves lives. So.
And your garage doors are special doors. If you look at your garage door compared the man door that goes in between your garage and the interior living space of your house, those are fire rated doors, or they should be. So it's important that if you guys are having those replaced, they're being replaced with the appropriate door that meets that fire rating. And that's the same concept that we're talking about here, is you have that fire rated door in between your living space and the garage. Your interior doors are usually hollow core doors that are much lighter, and but they're still going to serve that same purpose. They'll fail sooner, but you'll still get the benefit. Yes, ma'am.
Does that include all unoccupied and even bathroom?
Yeah, my recommendation would be to close all your doors when people are not, in between movement between the rooms.
Yeah, I know that we had a fire down the street, probably 8 years ago now, and it was in the bathroom. But the bathroom door was closed.
Right.
The fire damage was all in there. The smoke damage was all through the house, because the
And
smoke
that-
was able to get through
And
the...
even that door close will limit that smoke
Right.
travel substantially.
Right.
So you guys, honestly, you can look online, find homes that will burn with the doors closed, and there will probably be, or closed before you doze campaign, you'll see plenty of evidence of that.
Oh, that's great information. Okay, fire deaths, I'll just get to the bottom line. U.S. overall, in 2019, 3,515 people died from fires. Why are we selecting garages? Well, because they pose a specific hazard. One reason is we've had the 3 major fires in the last 6 months. But the other reasons are, that's where the water heaters are, that's where the boilers are, that's where people do a lot of mechanical work, that's where people store their oil and gasoline cans, flammable liquids. So these are things that are in the garage that are not typically, or not usually, in the home, in the living space. And so it gives us a whole new category of interest with regard to fire. Following tips can help prevent garage fires and their spread. The floor should be clear of clutter. Loose papers, matches, oily rags, and other potentially flammable items are extremely dangerous if they are strewn about the garage floor. How many people have seen garages that are so full that you cannot put a car in the garage? Did you raise your hand? How many people have a garage? No, I won't ask that question. Use light bulbs with proper wattage and do not overload electrical circuits. I think that picture kind of demonstrates what you should not do, and as well as that one. But I see a lot of those, and it always concerns me. Not only fire, but rodents, get into those spaces as well. So there's a lot of problems with that. Take down all cords and wires so they are not twisted or accidentally yanked. Plug only one charging appliance into an outlet. Don't use an extension cord when charging an appliance. Do these make sense to you guys?
Absolutely, yeah. Using an extension cord as a source of permanent wiring is a big one that we see, and that's not a safe way to do business. There's different gauge extension cords or wires, and it depends on what kind of draw you're putting on those. So the best solution is you plug directly into an outlet, and you're not using an extension cord as a permanent source of wiring. If you do have a situation that you can't reach whatever your situation is in the garage, get an electrician out, have them come install a new outlet, and that'll be on maybe a different breaker depending on what you have going on in your garage. And that's a much safer, better solution to that. On the note of the oily rags and flammable liquids, oily rags they sell at Home Depot. You can find containers to hold those, and they should be put in proper containers after you get oil or gas or any kind of flammable liquid on a rag. It should be put into that container. There's a period of time where you leave it in there, and then you can throw it out after that. And then the flammable liquids, again, proper containers for storage of flammable liquids. So, the appropriate gas cans if you're storing gasoline. If you are, it should be in very, very small quantities, maybe for lawn equipment. And then they sell lockers. They're basically little lockers or little cabinets that you can put those flammable liquids into. And the idea behind that is you're securing those within those metal containers, and you're not going to have an issue. As if like it was mentioned, your pilot lights, and depending on where your water heater's at and all that kind of stuff, you do have some ignition sources in your garage, so it can be problematic. Yes, sir.
With our heat here in the summertime, the flammable liquids, would they combust in the garages?
No, not usually, not by environmental heat. Typically it's some other ignition source that causes that to happen. Again, my recommendation would be to limit the amount of flammable liquids that you are storing in your garage. If anything, it should be a very small, maybe 1 gallon fuel can just for your lawn equipment. And then put that inside of a flammable liquid compartment, and you should be good there.
Okay, we're talking about the door between the garage and the living space. Be aware that if you install a pet door in the door leading from the house to the garage, flames can more easily spread into the living area. Make sure that the door leading from the garage to the living area is well sealed and remains closed and not in use.
Good thing it's well sealed.
And Captain Dutton told you about the doors. I have a question, and maybe somebody in the audience knows, and you guys know. Do we have a firewall
Yes.
between our garage and the living area?
You
Yeah, your kitchen
have a
wall.
firewall goes all the way up. Are any of your homes sprinklered?
No.
So the fire code changes a little bit when you have a sprinkler at home. They could do different things based on that sprinkler rating. So,
Yep.
and then your door that you were talking about, that Captain was talking about, is a 1 hour fire rated door. And many times we'll show up to house fires, and somebody will see they'll get evidence of a fire inside the garage. They'll open up that man door and they leave it open. So that's a direct pathway into your house. If you open that garage, you see a fire, close that door, and it will I can assure you, him and I have been on a lot of big fires. I know the one he just had was very well-established fire and virtually nothing went in the house. So that door will hold back fire, and it'll save the rest of your house.
And if you do have a pet door, I think that's a raccoon coming. That's not necessarily that good with you.
Put it on your side.
Store your flammable liquids in clearly labeled self-closing containers in only small amounts, like Captain Dutton said. Keep them away from heaters, appliances, pilot lights, and other sources of heat or flame. Never store propane tanks indoors. If they catch fire, they can explode. Propane tanks are sturdy enough to be stored outdoors. Is that? Make sure if you have a golf cart that the battery is properly maintained. Water levels are optimal in order to keep leaded plates submerged. The battery is not overcharged and it is not corroded. The corrosion may produce air gaps which may cause sparks, and thus the sparks may reach the battery terminal and this will cause a battery to explode. It certainly may. This happens when air is in friction with the wires and the energy that flows along with them causes sparks. You guys have no doubt seen fires that have been started by.
So, and it's not just, you have to understand, it's not just water. It has to be distilled water, because our normal tap water has trace amounts of lead in it. And that trace amounts of lead is actually what typically either underfilling it or overfilling it with water. And most people think they can just put regular water in it. You cannot do that. It has to be distilled water, because there's no lead in distilled water. That's like extremely important, because when you're charging that battery and it's got that lead in it, and then depending on the type of battery, you could have the lead version of the batteries where it could produce hydrogen gas, which is almost like the hydrogen, you know, the what is that balloon? Yeah, that thing. So, and then that will put off a non-color, you can't odorless gas in your garage, and actually it typically will trip off your carbon monoxide detector. And we'll get a call sometimes from you folks saying, my carbon monoxide alarms are going off, and you have the man door open. And if I'll go around the house and we'll check, and a lot of times it is that battery that's charged. If I go in the garage and I find a battery that's being charged, 9 times out of 10, it's that battery that's failing because it was either improperly filled with wrong water and it's starting to overheat. And luckily we got there when we did, and we caught it when we did. So I think you had a question, sir?
Is it important to have ventilation when you're
Yes.
charging your batteries on
Yep.
the golf cart?
Yeah, so having ventilation, if you have one of those type of batteries, it's going to produce that hydrogen gas. Having that ventilation will reduce the level of explosion. We call it the explosive limit, but it'll reduce that ability for that to have an ignitable atmosphere.
I think we'll probably get some information out just on this issue, because so many people have
Is
golf carts.
anybody filling theirs with regular water? Like, if you're looking at that, that happens quite a bit. So
I
No, I
did,
think Tom has, but he's not willing to admit it.
I did a little bit of research on this too, because I know I figured this was going to be a topic of conversation. And one of the things that in a couple of articles that I read was folks sometimes go through multiple golf carts, and like Chief Boyd was saying, there's different batteries on different golf carts depending on the age and so on and so forth. So it's important to use whatever charger that you get with that golf cart with the associated golf cart. Does that make sense? So if we start interchanging charging equipment between golf carts, maybe you have two, because there's one for his and hers version. And then you start interchanging that equipment, there's the potential that you're going to be sending too much energy to that battery. Does that make sense to everybody? So just make sure you're using whatever charger came with that golf cart, and then again, like you said, maintaining the batteries appropriately.
One more question on that too. When charging the battery, when I bought a golf cart that we have, the individual we got it from, the company, they said that if you're charging it, it'll automatically shut itself off when it's fully charged. Is that correct?
Yes, well, not all of them. So that's why I'm gonna bring up, you need to make sure you have one of those, because if you don't, and I've been on one substantial fire I had, where they did not have one that shut off. So they went to bed, they plugged it in, I think it was like 3 o'clock after they got done golfing, and then at 3 in the morning, we had a house fire there.
Is there a way to tell?
If it shuts off,
No, you have your charger or not?
you got, I don't know, you have to look at the
Yeah,
manufacturer on it and
manufacturer.
see what they say, but yeah, this one individual had one that just kept charging, it was a constant trickle charge. And then I think there might have been some elements of improper maintenance on the battery as well.
Bottom
with
line
that.
is, best thing is to be prudent, just when you're charging the battery, don't just leave it charged.
Question about that.
So I have a question, sir.
Yeah, is it necessary to have a specific receptacle wired with higher amperage wiring to handle some of the battery charges specifically for golf carts?
No, we're just talking about, I don't think so. It'll say on it should say on any paperwork that you have what the draw is for that charger, or maybe it marked right on the charger itself. But I've never heard of anything requiring like 220 or anything like that, so.
I think for me, I would make sure I had that plugged into something like he was alluding to earlier that has a breaker attached to it. Most of our garages are attached to one breaker for the entire garage, but you know, just kind of something to be aware of.
Okay, this is a biggie. Never leave space heaters unattended or near any combustible materials. Consider purchasing a space heater that automatically shuts off in the event it's tipped over. We have a space heater in our bathroom. It will automatically shut off if it's tipped over. It will also automatically shut off after a period of time. It'll also automatically shut off if it gets to a certain heat level. So I think all of those things are important, because I'm sure that there have been several fires that result from space heaters not being properly maintained. You never should leave a space heater. It's not something that you put in your garage and to try to warm up your garage and then go grocery shopping. It's something that should be maintained and watched all the time. Have fire extinguishers handy and know how and when to use them. 4 classes of fire. Class A, ordinary solid combustibles such as paper, wood, cloth, and some plastics. B, flammable liquids such as alcohol, either oil, gasoline, and grease, which are best extinguished by smothering. C, electrical equipment, appliances and wiring in which you use a non-conductive extinguishing agent prevents injury from electrical shock. Don't use water on an electrical fire. Certain flammable metallic substances such as sodium and potassium, these materials are normally not found in the medical center. I don't know why it says medical center there, but they're typically not found in our garages. So there's different types of fire extinguishers. Type A, pressurized water, to be used on Class A fire only. Type A, B, C, dry chemical, effective on all classes of fire. Type B, C, carbon dioxide, to be used on chemical or electrical fires. Type K, used in kitchens on grease fires. So everyone should have a Class A, B, C fire extinguisher. How about a K fire extinguisher? Is that something that's advisable as well? I don't have it.
No, typically what we recommend is everybody get an ABC extinguisher. That's what you're going to be able to find down at your local hardware store. And good places for those in the home, or have those in the kitchen. If you have a grease fire, the recommendation on that is baking soda. Just put some baking soda on it. That's going to put that out. If you get a little grease fire going in a pan on your stove and you spray something at it, water, etc., it's just going to push all that flammable liquid away, and then you're going to end up making the fire larger. So what you want to do is just dump some baking soda on it, put a lid on it like we talked about, eliminating that oxygen component, and that'll put out that fire for you. The worst thing we could do on grease fires is put water on those, or push any of that flammable liquid away into another space, because it's going to continue to burn. So just a good general ABC extinguisher. one in your kitchen, maybe in a common area inside of the house, and then definitely one in the garage.
We had an incident in our house where somebody had taken the cover in a microwave, and it's our microwave is right above the stove, and they were gonna put something in the microwave to heat something up, and they took that plastic cover and put it on the stove. Unfortunately, somebody else came in and turned on the gas on the stove, and it just happened to be where that plastic cover was, and
Sure.
it caused a fire.
Sure.
So anytime you take it out of the microwave, be sure you don't put it on the stove.
Good tip.
Yeah, storing anything on the stove, wouldn't recommend that. You'll see it, we go into a lot of people's houses on a regular basis, and just because of that, like you mentioned, sir, the potential for somebody to come along and not be paying attention and light the stove up. Try to keep those areas clear and free of anything that's flammable.
Pretty usable acronym you should remember is PASS. How to use a fire extinguisher. You pull the pin, aim at the base of the fire. You don't aim at the flames, you aim at the base of the fire, squeeze the lever, and sweep from side to side. And I also put down at the bottom, when in doubt, get out. If you don't know how to use that fire extinguisher, or the fire is out of control, get out of there. You know, I think that can be one of the more dangerous things. People don't realize that when that fire starts, there's two elements there. There's fire and there's smoke. And you may say, oh, that fire is small enough, I can get that thing out. The room might be filled with smoke, and you can die of smoke inhalation right there. So it's important. If that fire is too big, when in doubt, get out. Any comments on that, guys?
Close your door on the way out. Just like we talked about at the beginning, is if you can isolate an area of your house by closing doors, closing windows, etc., keeping those closed, and then you're leaving that room that there's a fire in, close your door. That'll buy us a lot of time.
And sometimes actually it'll put the fire out, because then that room becomes starved of oxygen, the fire goes out. By the time we get there, the room is burned to a crisp. There's no fire for us. You know, and you gotta consider we call it legacy furniture, but the furniture that you and even I grew up with back in the day took 20, 30 minutes before it would get to what we call flashover potential. Well, nowadays, everything's basically made with fuel, you know, and your couches now that back in the day were not made that way, your couches now are literally gasoline. And that one fire will take minutes, now less than 5 minutes, before it gets to the potential to maybe flash a room. So you don't have that much time. So that goes back to what he said. Close before you doze. It gives you that, buys you that time. It'll isolate that fire. So.
When in doubt, get out. Don't be a hero. Yes.
So can you tell them exactly how long and how much of a fire that one canister will?
Depends on the canister.
Yeah, it depends on the extinguisher. So they're all rated at different levels based on the testing that they do with them. So it depends.
Typically?
It can give you a good.
Yeah, it just depends. You got the little small one underneath your sink, hardly anything, versus the big ones that we carry, you know, and it just depends on the size. So not a lot.
And chances are, if you don't get it out with the fire extinguisher you have, it may have gotten too big for you to get out, and that's when you want to leave. Yes?
How often do you need to check your fire extinguisher for expiration or for
So we
for it to be used?
recommend on smoke alarms that as you change your clocks, you check your smoke alarms. So my recommendation to you guys would be at the same time when you're doing that and checking the batteries in your smoke alarms and making sure that those are functioning properly and not expired, you check your fire extinguishers as well.
You know, I want to say something because not in here, but my previous place where I lived burned down. And biggest mistake I made was when the smoke, it was started in the kitchen. And then I was there, and then fire extinguishers didn't do a damn thing because the fire was already by the stove, electrical behind the stove. And what happened was I opened up the sliding door, and that was the worst thing you can do. And I didn't realize it. I was in panic. So I opened up the sliding door, and then of course the whole thing burned. I mean, the whole place was burned down. So you can't open up, you have to get out, you know. I thought that was an important thing.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Now, during my research, I didn't even know these things existed. I hope you guys know more about them than I do. It's not necessarily recommended, and you may disagree, to have a smoke detector in your garage, because smoke alarms of garages can sound because of changes in temperature and humidity, as well as dust, fumes, and insects. Heat alarms are made to not be affected by these conditions. And here's a couple of heat alarms. That's what they look like, and they range. I'll have another one. I found this one on Amazon. It's like 20 to 50 bucks, and I think it's rated at 135 degrees. In other words, it has to get up to 135 degrees before it goes off. And it's probably, I don't know, it might get up to 135 degrees on a hot summer day. I don't know. They should be hardwired with battery backup, capable of interconnecting with your home smoke alarms, rated for temperatures between 175 and 250 Fahrenheit. Alarms with lower temperature ratings may sound because of temperatures in the garage when they rise above 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Alarms with higher temperature ratings may sound too late to warn you of a fire. So you want it to be in that range. You don't want it to be, 1,500 degrees because it may never go off. Have your hardwired heat alarm installed by a qualified electrician. You guys have any comments on heat alarms?
Typically, we see stuff like that in a commercial setting more than we would see in the residential setting. If that's something that you guys are interested in and want to do, and it's going to be a monitored device, meaning that there's some security company and or fire protection company that's monitoring the system in your house, just make sure, like as was mentioned, that it's an appropriate temperature rating on that, because we all know how hot it gets here in the summer. It's not crazy to think that it might be 120 in the top of your garage where you're going to mount this thing. So it could become problematic if you get the wrong device. If it's not monitored and it's just something that you're using for your own peace of mind, then you'll find out this summer if it's rated at a high enough temperature.
Have to say about that? On those heat alarms out, they'd be great for the garage. Okay. But again, I think, honestly, they need to be set up to where they also, like you say, they go with your smoke alarms in the house. But I think they also should have a light to also warn you in the house. Because there's a lot of, I don't know about a lot of people in here, but I'm deaf. When I sleep, I can't hear the alarms, a lot of things, okay? So I just had a fire here in November. One of my houses burned over here.
Okay.
Okay. If I would have had a heat alarm, it might have got something to me, but I didn't have one. But again, my house alarms, they didn't go off immediately, by no means, and I had a lot of smoke in my house. In fact, it was almost just before the fire department showed up that those damn alarms started going off. And that's what threw me off, big time, because we were all standing out in the street, and again, my electricity was still on in the house. All long time thing was burning, and then the same thing. The alarms really didn't go off that quickly, which I was kind of stunned, because we were talking to my son and my wife and him, and we were talking about how long we were outside. I got out of the house and realized the alarms, they just went off. They weren't off when we were, getting up. And I was getting up to go to work, and I was in the shower and got out. But one of the big mistakes, I know one of the other gentlemen at home around the corner here just burnt back week or week before. Same thing to me. And the idea is that, yeah, you've got a fire, you don't know really what it is, especially like in a garage. And the worst thing you can do is go open that damn door and go see what's going on. Because I got lucky. I managed to just, because the neighbor woke us up, you know, and I proceeded to go to the garage, but, hey, yeah, maybe I can put it out, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Which was stupid, okay? Because I opened up that laundry room door, which all of us in here have that, so our garages. The minute I opened up that garage, that door, I felt that heat and that smoke just raced right in. I only opened it up, I'm talking about just a hair. And the minute I felt that heat, I put my hand on the door by that seat, and then again, just that little incident could have blew me through the door, which I knew it did the other gentleman because he opened the door, which I would have done the same thing because I was going to go to work. I go out that door every morning when I do go to work. And if I'd have followed my routine, if it wasn't for the neighbor that just so happened to, his dog woke him up and was going crazy, and he just moved a few doors down from me and seen the smoke coming from my roof and came over and woke me up, which I was already up. But again, I never knew that fire was going on, even though I was still getting smoke coming in the house somewhat. I didn't really notice it as much, but I know my wife and my son were sitting there complaining about how smoky it really was, you know. And I said, well, I didn't really notice the smoke. I mean, I was choking anyway, but the big part of it was, like I say, to the alarm, yeah, great idea. And I guarantee when my house gets put back together, it will have one, but I guarantee it's gonna have a light inside that house.
Yeah.
You know, that's gonna also let me know that that thing's going off, and I hope it goes off a lot sooner than ones for some reason didn't go off for quite a while later, you know what I'm saying?
Well, thanks a lot for that information. I think that it fortifies the concept of closing doors. Okay, and what's the slogan?
Close before you doze.
Close before you doze. Okay, that just really fortifies that.
It's some things to think about too. You know, this last fire that just occurred that Captain Dutton was the incident commander of. When he arrived on scene, there was you folks, not you folks, but there were some folks trying to put a fire out with a green, we call the green line, but your garden hose. That garden hose has no flow to it. Just to give you some sort of a semblance of what we show up with, we're flowing 150 gallons a minute to overwhelm that fire. And even we have challenges sometimes to do that. So that green line, that hose, that garden hose on a fire that big is not going to do anything but hurt you. And then there was one point where that garage had ammunition in it. So I don't need you folks trying to do that and putting yourselves in harm's way when we have the safety gear, we're trained to do what we do. I don't want you being hurt. There's nothing in that garage and putting that gigantic garage fire out with a green hose line that is worth it for you. So please don't do that.
And I did hear when I saw the video some explosions. So there were some explosions while the green line was being used. So that's just another danger.
Ma'am?
Yes, I'm curious. There are some of us in this community that live alone, really. And you know, if the smoke is coming out in the garage and it's subtle, and you don't really smell it or you don't really hear it until the natural curiosity is to open that door.
But yeah, and you see.
But I mean, how could you not fight that impulse to open that door if you're at home alone?
I'm not
and
saying
you
not
don't
to
have
open
anybody?
the door. Like I understand, we're all going to be like, "We have a fire. What's going on?" And you're going to look, and just like the gentleman said, that smoke comes in instantly. Yeah. And just like Captain Dutton and I have been expressing, as soon as you see there's any sort of semblance of smoke in there, it's past the ability for you to manage.
Okay,
Close
so
the door, get out.
No matter what it is.
Close the door and get out. Call 911.
Okay.
Alert us so we can come, because that reflex time of you getting on the phone, call 911. We're looking at a 3-minute time frame before we are even sometimes alerted to where we have to get out to the engine, we have to put all that safety gear on, and then we start driving here.
Yeah,
So
as a woman myself, I would just like if I were home alone and there was nobody, and I'm elderly even more.
Yeah.
And and I'm curious and I smell it, but I don't know where it's coming from. I mean, I'm just saying that's just something that you normally
get us coming.
do.
Get us coming immediately.
You know, that's why we're having this session, because going through this process, and as we sit here today, I'm learning a lot. I hope some of you are as well. But that is a major lesson. Closing the doors, to me, really makes a difference. Yes?
You know, when you're leaving your home for a vacation or extended period of time, should you unplug all your appliances from the outlets? And on the power strips that you have up in the garage, is it sufficient enough to turn the switch off on the power switch, or just unplug it from the wall?
Say either way. I can't say that I unplug all of my appliances when I leave for a long vacation, because a lot of our stuff's plugged into an appliance or an outlet that has a breaker to it, too, you know? Like my entire kitchen's on a breaker. I don't know about, but most of the time that's the case. So, I don't know if that's necessarily.
Yeah, refrigerators, washer, dryer, those kinds of things, you can leave all those plugged in. Anything that you would be using temporarily, that's not the day-to-day, 24/7, 365 that's plugged in, I would say it would be appropriate to unplug those things. But anything that's normally operated and on, like Chief Lloyd said, on a breaker, you'll be okay, but you should be fine with that.
One more question?
I have two questions. One of them is, do all the fire trucks have water immediately?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The second question is, how long does it take after you arrive to get that hose working to start? What's the average time?
Seconds.
Seconds.
It seemed like it took 5 minutes from the video that the guys actually got out and got the hose working. I don't know why it took so long.
Yeah, so on that one, when we pulled up, there's a few things that have to occur when we pull up. So when we pull up, my job is to give a report on conditions and order more resources if we need them that already haven't been started. Let the incoming resources know what we have, what we're seeing, and what we need from them as they come in. So that's my job. And I have 2 firefighters with me, and one of them is going to pull the hose line, and then the other one of them is likely going to get tools, pull another hose line, or maybe pop inside real quickly to close that door that we talked about, or check to make sure that door is closed. So there's a few things that go on when we pull up before we just immediately charge a hose line and start flowing water. Like was mentioned before, there was some explosions occurring when we pulled up on scene. The first priority for me is my folks' life and making sure that they're taken care of and not going to get injured. Obviously, that's right there side by side with you folks that we serve, right? So when we have explosions coming out of a garage and unknown to us what's in that garage, sometimes we slow down a little bit to make sure that we're being safe. The occupants of that home were out. It was reported to us before we got there that they had already been removed from the structure. So for me, that's ultimately on me. So yes, I agree with you. It did seem like it took a little bit of time before we started putting water on it. But again, with that unknown hazard and us looking out specifically for my folks, we're going to slow down a little bit in that case. If I didn't have explosions happening when we pulled up on scene, it would have seemed and looked a lot faster than that one did.
And I also saw the video too. There was a video, and I was on the fire, but when that first firefighter was pulling the line, that's when the explosions went off. And that firefighter didn't, like he said, we don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
We have no idea, so he actually took refuge for a quick moment behind the fire engine to protect himself until Captain Dutton determined what was going on. So that fire was a little bit of an abnormality because of those explosions going on.
Okay, let's,
Can I make a comment on that? I know when my house burned, okay, there was a lot of explosions going on. And I know, again, you're doing exactly what you should do, to see. And I also, as soon as the first guy stopped in right there before he got out of his truck, I let him know that there was explosions going on. Also, I had a safe in there, which I knew I had ammunition in it too. So I wanted to make sure you guys knew that that stuff was in there before you guys started even walking out of that truck. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
And again, you guys did what you guys did, and when you did get started into the darn thing, I know one of the firemen almost got killed. because the stupid shock off the back of my wife's car blew off and went right by his face, okay? And that was just after you guys even started going into the door, you know? And so, like I say, I understand that part, because I mean, you just can't go jumping and running into the fire. I mean, I don't care how long it takes to hold to hook up, but like I say.
We face a lot of hazards on everything that we do on a daily basis, and we're by all means willing to risk a lot to save a lot.
Yeah, so like I say, there's a lot more, but like I said, there is about every garage I've ever heard of seeing, and I used to do explosions as far as for pyrotechnician and stuff like that for 15 years, you know, and did shows, and like I say, you know, those explosions, I mean, you don't know what's going on, especially in a garage, because there's so much stuff in a garage.
Okay, one of the things that I'm taking away from this is the what they call the green line, the hose, is not effective. No. And also, you want to be a hero, you want to try to help, and that's all okay. But fires can be dangerous. There can be explosions. There can be things like that blowing off the backs of cars, etc. So it's not just the fire. The fire can cause a lot of other problems as well that can be very, very dangerous to you.
Real quick, this is our division chief, Chief Hopkins. You want to say something?
So, hi, I'm Todd Hopkins. I'm the fire chief for Beaumont, Manny, and the pastor. So sometimes it's going to look like the firefighters aren't being aggressive going at the fires. What you have to understand is we're bound by certain laws that we have to also do. Unless we know that there is an immediate life hazard, somebody is trapped inside, we cannot enter into a structure without having what we call a 2-in, 2-out policy. So by the engine getting there first with 3-person staffing, they can't enter into the structure and start aggressively fighting the fire until they have another engine with a backup line and backup personnel on. Now, what we don't do is there's different tactics for fighting fires. We don't always just flow water from the outside and spray it in, because we don't want to actually, if we have that fire confined to the garage, we don't want to necessarily spray a bunch of water from inside the garage, the big opening doors, and then push the fire into the other house. So what the firefighters will try to do is we'll try to go in and we attack it from the unburned side and then push the fire back out through the burned side. So sometimes you might see that where firefighters are sitting at the door, they're waiting for that other fire engine to get there. Also, our firefighters, we have our breathing apparatus inside of our fire engines. Well, it's unsafe, even though they're in the seats, for them to be putting on their VA harnesses inside the fire engine. So a lot of times now we have to get into our VA harness, get unseatbelted, put the VA harness on, then get out. That all takes about a minute to get your breathing apparatus on and get it all configured. We've had firefighters get hurt in the past by trying to wear the breathing apparatus. Back when all 3 of us were firefighters, when Ryan was younger and Tim and I were on the fire engines, a lot of times we used to not wear our seat belts while we were in the fire engines. We'd jump into our jump seat, we'd be putting our SCBA on, so we'd rip it out of the seat when we got on there. We'd already have our mask on. So we have to start looking at our firefighter safety when we're going to and from calls. That's the most dangerous time, is when they're responding to calls on a lot of these emergency incidents, getting in car accidents, and we don't want to see anybody get hurt. Those seats that are in the fire engines are very uncomfortable. They sit pretty much straight up and down with imagine a big metal bottle that's in your seat that's pushed up against your spine as you're bouncing down the road. So it's just not safe for them to do it. So a lot of times they'll switch over, get their VA on, and start getting all that stuff on right before they get in, or you'll start seeing them put it on. Some of our fire engines you can't even put on your air pack until you get there, because they've actually moved them out into compartments on the fire engine. So there's different reasons why. Ryan gave you his explanation why the explosions and stuff like that, but understand that there's OSHA laws that we have to follow. There's other types of safety things that we have to follow, and we also have department policy that we have to follow on wearing our seatbelts and those type of things. So
Thank you, Chief. Just a few things after the fire. I'll go through this pretty quickly, and then we can open it up for any other questions that you might have. Contact your local disaster relief service. Red Cross does a great job. The leader of our Solera CERT Cadre works with the Red Cross and is often involved in some of these activities. If you're insured, contact your insurance company for detailed instructions on protecting your property. Conduct an inventory. Check with the fire department. Make sure your residence is safe to enter. Watch out for any structural damage caused by the fire. Fire department should make sure that utilities are either safe to use or are disconnected before they leave the site. Do not attempt to reconnect utilities yourself. Is that correct?
Correct.
Conduct an inventory of damaged property and items. Do not throw away any damaged goods until after an inventory is made. Begin saving receipts for any money you spend related to fire loss. The receipts may be needed later by the insurance company. Notify your mortgage company of the fire. And here's the fine print. And this basically is something we threw in here. We don't sponsor those smoke detectors, for instance. I mean, heat detectors. You need to do your own research because everybody has a different situation. You may have one car in your garage. You may be doing mechanical works in your garage. So you may have a different set of circumstances that needs a different set of controls to monitor to any activity. That's it for me. Okay, I'm going to let you guys ask. Oh, look at all the people. Look at all the people. Where do we start? Back in the back. Yes, you. You. The one with the hand behind.
I was just curious if they knew the cause for all three fires. I'm not sure if they know. That's what was important to us since it was in such a short time. Because I'm not really aware. I heard one might be a golf cart fire, but that's all I've heard kind of through hearsay. Do they know the causes of those three fires? Or did they can? I don't know how they determine that.
So I will, what I'm comfortable sharing is they were all different causes, not all one and the same.
But you can't tell us what caused it, just that they're all different.
Yeah, no, so we do a preliminary fire investigation. That's another part of my job is to do the preliminary fire investigation. And depending on the situation and what we have and how much damage occurs, and sometimes we don't get a 100%, this is exactly the specific thing that caused it. I can determine where and what likely caused it. But sometimes we don't get that 100% confirmation. This is exactly what it was. Does that make sense?
Do you think that it was, could you say whether it's one of the things that we talked about?
Yes.
During this presentation?
Without a doubt, every single one of those were issues mentioned in the PowerPoint.
Yes, sir.
Can I make a comment on that? Also, like mine burned, okay. Mine, we're still kind of playing little, you did it, that did it, on what, caused my fire. But one thing of advice, which I didn't get here earlier, again, is I know like the gentleman made a comment about unplugging appliances. Well, we know we can't do that. But we all know that we all work in our garages or tinker around or whatever. And again, we leave a lot of crazy things in them. But these hand tools that are with batteries, okay, our golf carts with batteries, our little bikes that everybody's running around, our handicap carts and stuff. And these batteries are all capable of blowing up, starting fires. You put your batteries on, or your golf cart, you put your charger up onto them whenever you think you want to keep it charged up. But the main thing is, you just can't put the charger on. You got to make sure those batteries are full of water. You got to make sure that, not just water, but you got to make sure they're full. They can't be empty because they can short out and they can cause the fires. Okay, and then the minute you hook up the chargers up to them, half hour later, an hour later, it cooks the batteries dry, you got a fire. Your batteries and your work tools, those things again, I've already talked to a lot of people already where they've already had incidents with batteries. okay, to where they overheat on chargers. And so they think automatically the overheating is the issue to cause the fire. That's true. But again, you still have the option of the batteries being old. They short out internally, just like our phones, our laptops, our different devices. Those devices also. So the main thing is you don't want to keep your batteries on a charger. You want to take them off. You want to keep an eye on it.
I have a question. I don't have a golf cart, but is there any instruction that you're given when you buy a golf cart?
No. Depends on how you buy it.
Go out and have fun, go golfing.
Yeah. I would do your research. If you have a golf cart, make sure you're following the manufacturer's instructions on that golf cart and charging it. And do not leave your house with batteries being charged unattended. That would be the one thing I would ensure, that when you leave your house, you are pulling that and do not charge batteries when you're not there.
Like I said earlier, I think the Solera CERT Cadre may concentrate on the golf cart issue and perhaps maybe even have classes on that issue to make people aware of what they need to do.
But your batteries on your tools, that's what we're taking mine out.
I'm going to tell you, you know, for over 25 years of fighting fires, the majority of the fires I've been on in senior type communities, and I would say even regular communities for garage fires, but in senior communities is golf carts catching fire, space heaters, and then just somebody mentioned about the I think you said something about the surge protectors. People plugging too much stuff into sockets. They'll buy. You'll go to Home Depot. You'll buy the one plug that turns your 2-plug outlet into a 6-plug outlet, and then they put another 3-plug outlet on that. They just keep plugging a bunch of cords in. So usually, from my experience, I'm not saying any of these fires, but the golf carts, space heaters, and then electrical fires from use of the...
Back in the back?
Your battery.
I have a question. We've been talking about batteries, but you're concentrating on lead acid batteries and water. There's going to be a lot more lithium-ion batteries between EVs and hybrid vehicles that are stored in garages and being charged. We have one. Do you, as a fire department, have a way, if you come to a fire and it is actually a big lithium-ion battery, like in an EV that's on fire, do you have a different way of handling that? Or do you know how to handle that, I guess?
Yeah, we actually have to apply copious amounts of water to that battery for hours.
You gotta really flow.
Yeah, for a long time, because it'll actually the heat is still there. So if we have a car fire, we honestly have to stay on scene for a considerable amount of time, at least like an hour, and apply water to that battery to ensure that it doesn't reignite.
Is that a better battery, or is that more likely to catch fire, or how's that?
Is it a fair question as far as the golf carts? Because, a lot of us have a golf cart. There's a level to keep the water in the batteries. Is it also a possibility of overfilling a battery?
Yep, and I mentioned that earlier, don't overfill them and don't underfill them. They need to be right at that line with distilled water.
With distilled water?
With distilled water.
But it's very important not to overfill.
Very important to keep it at that line and to monitor that line continuously.
My question has to do with the fire sprinkler system.
Yeah.
Fighting fires, how often have you come across fire sprinklers versus non? Which is, I mean, if we have...
We're still having fires with
installed-
sprinklers buildings. The extent of fire spread is limited.
Okay.
Now, right? So that's
So you
limited.
have a better
It's not stopping
chance
the fires.
if you have a sprinkler system.
But we're stopping
in.
the fire, yeah. And at most residential homes, mine has sprinklers in it, most
Because
new
my
builds.
home previously did, my home here does not.
Exactly. So all the new builds are coming with sprinklers for the
I think it's a requirement, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is a requirement.
You've been patiently waiting.
Yeah, is this an unusual high number of house fires in Solera versus other communities?
We've had a little bit of a rise this last year here, for sure.
Yeah.
So, but we're getting
The
fires.
homes are aging.
So, or we are, and you're just saying.
I didn't say that.
We're just stupid.
No, I'm not saying that either. I think it's just...
Forgetfulness sometimes.
All right, so Solera houses are safe, they're built quality.
Yeah, I don't
We're
think it's
doing
anything to
something.
do with that. I think it's some of the charging habits,
Our
some of those
techniques.
kind of things.
I think it's the things we've talked about today. I think those are the issue. I don't think it's the houses. The houses are built very well, I think.
No, because I'm looking inside the house, and like you said, the kitchen. If you look at most kitchens, we're gonna have 2 or 3 surge protectors on each of those outlets. So
Well,
much difference.
typically you'll have one breaker, and it's tied to all of them. though.
Yep.
And that's how mine is in my house. I only have one that actually has the.
No, I got 2 or 3.
A few
Yeah, it
years
just
ago,
depends on how it's wired.
About 20 years ago at St. Bernardine's Hospital, in the nurse's lounge, somebody had left the coffee maker on heat. And people would come in and pour it out. They never turned it off and had a fire in the nurse's lounge.
Yeah. Okay, let's, what I'd like to do now is we have some first responders here. We have some fire professionals here. And I know every one of us appreciates the heck out of these people. I'd like to give them a round of applause. Thank you all for coming. We are planning on having a couple of more of these, the same program in the latter part of January. So if you know of anybody who missed this and wants to participate in it, we'll get that information out within the next couple of weeks. Other than that, Nick, do you have anything else?
Yeah, I don't know if we're on the time limit, but I got something that takes just about 2 minutes.
Okay.
I found something on my panel, the AFCI, found it's an arc fault circuit interrupter. And it's to find any spark that you may get in your house. The articles I read on the internet seem to lean toward most of the problems are in the hallways and the bedrooms. I don't know why, I didn't find that out. But it talks about this one breaker that's in your box. Mine has a yellow tag on it, a yellow sticker that's permanent. The articles that I read said that these were, after 1999, these yellow AFCIs were installed. And apparently there were thousands and thousands of homes in the country that have caught fire because of this. So it's a serious thing. But 2014, these AFCIs, I got that right, were replaced by new models. And what they're really saying is these old ones aren't really much good. So my question would be, is this something we have to be really concerned about? Should they be replaced?
I'm not gonna, I don't feel comfortable speaking to that specifically. I would say that's something that you need to work probably with your CERT team and start doing some more research and to build your knowledge on that, because I can't speak to that. Him and I both don't know the specifics of what you're doing. So I would say that would be something to maybe do some research on. And if that is something that's evident within your homes, like this gentleman was saying, is it something about the build, then maybe that's something your local CERT team could disseminate information and we can start changing those out. So.
Okay, I'd like to thank everybody for coming. Nick, did you have anything else?
I just want to tell everyone I appreciate the number of people that actually showed up. I wasn't expecting this many, so thank you.
Thank you.